Hello my lovelies and welcome back to BrittneyOriel. Thank you for tuning in yet again to another one of my videos. In today's video, I'm going to cover 3 parenting tombs. I'm also going to follow up this video with another video where I'm going to do another 3 parenting tombs. Within this video, I'm going to talk about 3 tombs: helicopter parents, lawnmower parents, and cottonwool parenting. Within this video, I'm going to give a brief explanation as to what these terms mean, why they happen, and what effect it has on children. So I hope you learn something, current parents as well as upcoming parents of our future generation. As a side note, these parenting styles are more on the dysfunctional end. So they aren't, let's say, oh, which parent am I? It's more of a way to bring awareness if you are practicing dysfunctional parenting practices, or, as I said, for the younger generation to ensure that they don't allow, whether it be childhood trauma or just lots of love for their children, to overcome their role as a parent and basically hinder your children's development. That's kind of what these types of parenting styles do. So, without babbling on, we're going to start now. We begin with helicopter parents. The word helicopter comes from their tendency to hover around their children and sometimes rescue them or take away any form of discomfort or challenge when and if it arises. It is basically when the instinct that parents have to support their children goes wrong. These parents tend to overparent, tend to over-control, overprotect their children, and become very hyper-involved in their lives in every possible aspect. These parents tend to take on a lot of responsibility as to whether their children succeed or whether they fail. And there are different ways that this type of parenting manifests at different developmental stages. So there's different ways that it will manifest when the child is a toddler, then when they're a child, then when they're a teenager, and so on. These types of parents come about for a few reasons. One, they tend to fear consequences. They tend to fear the worst case that they know that their children can encounter. So, I mean, we all know the world that we live in. So parents are knowing whatever they have been through or whatever they see people going through, they fear their children having to face those types of consequences. They tend to have a lot of anxiety. They worry about their children experiencing some form of hurt or disappointment. It also stems from a place of overcompensation. So when someone had a childhood where they were neglected or they weren't loved enough, and there's particular gaps that evolved from their childhood traumas, when they become a parent, they tend to think that they don't have to just do what their parents didn't do, but they want to do even more. So it's a form of overcompensation for what it is their own parents didn't do in their own childhood. It also comes from peer pressure from parents, because there are a lot of parents, especially I would say moms, and I just call in a jack, that come at other moms and tell them what they should and what they shouldn't do, and what is a good thing for a mother to do and what is not a good thing for their mother to do. So that peer pressure that comes from getting parenting right or doing the right thing by a child, that births helicopter parents. That again, it stems in that fear of consequences. They fear that their children experience hurt or disappointment as a result of them. And lastly, these parents tend to have no to poor purpose within themselves as to, that question as to why was I born, or why am I here, or what is the purpose of my life. They tend to boil that down to being a parent alone, which is just one aspect of your life. It's a big aim to look at, motherhood or fatherhood. It's a nice, amazing journey, but it's not the only source of fulfillment, and it's not a healthy only source of fulfillment either, because then again, whether it's your children or whether it's a partner that you have or a job or anything, you can never have one source of happiness and one source of purpose and fulfillment, because you put so much pressure on whatever that agent is to be the source of your happiness or unhappiness. So in this case, parents put that pressure on their children, whereas somebody that might have that quality and it manifests in another way, they can put that pressure onto their partner to make them happy, and if they don't, then they're unhappy. So in all, helicopter parents have really good intentions. it just happens to produce bad outcomes. So they come in from a good place, but they're doing more harm than good. So some of the effects, and I say some because there are a lot, so some of the effects that come out of parents that parent children this way, so the effects that will manifest within the children, first off, they have very low self-esteem. Why? Because their parents have no faith in them acting independently and autonomously. So if it is your parents think that you can't handle anything on your own, you are going to think that that's a deficiency on your part. That's something that you are failing at, and something that you don't have within you to be able to do these tasks or face the challenges or whatever the particular situation is. It breeds low self-confidence within yourself. Also, if these children never experience some form of hurt or disappointment, they never learn how to cope with these situations. So basically, they have very undeveloped coping skills, which is something that you need in this society because there's a lot going on all the time. So if as a child you never learned how to cope with these particular situations, you lack the tools to deal with them when you have to face them at some point in your adulthood. They also have very high levels of anxiety and depression, of course, if you have a hovering parent all the time, anxious levels, and the low self-esteem, depression, and all these other different mood-related mental disorders that can come about from that kind of programming from such a young age. And lastly, children that are helicoptered tend to develop a sense of entitlement. Why? Because they're accustomed getting things their own way, which is going to just create such a horrendous wake-up call when they do go out in the real world and realize that that sense of entitlement is not going to get them anywhere, because you're not entitled to anything. Whoever you are, I am not entitled to anything. You're not entitled to anything. Anybody else in your life is not entitled to anything. You just get what comes to you, and most of the time karma plays a factor in it. So you put out good, you get good. You put out bad, you get bad. You give an attitude, you probably get a worse attitude from somebody in society. Or you be mean, and you know the saying, you meet your match at some point. Yeah, it basically creates a really horrible sense of entitlement that manifests within their school life, within their relationship, being in romantic relationships when they get to that stage, within their career life. They basically get accustomed to somebody making sure that everything is perfect for them and they don't have to deal with anything negative. So when they do have to deal with something negative, they're just looking around like, well, somebody has to fix this, and most of the time nobody's there. So parents, that helicopter parents, my message to you is it is very important to cultivate independence and autonomy within your children. There are particular stages in their life that they need your support, that they need you to hover and be there for them and protect them and support them and help them when they're hurt and they're disappointed. But at some point, they have to learn, first of all, how to do it on their own, because they are going to do it on their own. And it's really, really, I don't want to use the word selfish, but it's, for lack of better words, for lack of a better option, it's really selfish for you to create that type of life for them where they always need you, because the truth is you're not always going to be around. So create children that are going to grow into an adults and teenagers that can handle themselves independently, that can face the inevitable challenges and decisions that this life presents. Because whenever your time comes, which it always comes, and I pray it comes very long, whenever it does, these children are going to be here by themselves and even more lost than you could even imagine. So that brings us an end to helicopter parents. This is in no form judgment to helicopter parents. All I'm using this avenue for is education. I want y'all to learn about these particular traits that, again, helicopter parents are rooted in good intentions. It's just bad outcomes. So think about the outcomes of your decisions, of your actions, of how you parent or how you will parent when you become a parent, and ensure that you don't become a helicopter parent, especially when they're reaching the age where they have to learn independence, aka teenage years, molding that young adult to take on life. So now we move on to lawnmower parents. Lawnmower parents are also referred to bulldozer parents as well as snow plow parents. Of course, within different cultures, lawnmowers, but the point behind this particular word, picture a lawnmower, and these particular parents hover just similar to helicopter parents, but they also mow over any form of difficulty or challenge or struggle that the child may experience. Their aim is to rescue as well as clear the path for them to have the best possible experience without any negative experiences whatsoever. These types of parents rather put themselves ahead of their children to ensure that their children have the easiest journey that they can possibly have. They aim to prevent, eliminate, or rescue their children from any form of failure, disappointment, struggle, challenge, any negative experience that comes in life to everyone. This type of parenting tends to manifest in different ways within different developmental stages within a child's life, and it also manifests in different ways coming from the mother as well as the father. So the mother lawnmows in one particular way and in different avenues, and the father lawnmows in different avenues in different ways. So this type of parenting actually came about recently, and they see lawnmower parents as worse than helicopter parents. So for a time, helicopter parent was the parenting term to use to refer to different dysfunctional types of parenting styles, but lawnmower has emerged, and they actually see lawnmower parents as worse than helicopter parents. So they of course have different negative effects that the children experiences. So I'm going to list out some. First off, their children become unequipped to deal with any form of failure, and we all know failure is inevitable in any realm of your life. So when this failure does arise, they don't know how to deal with it. These children also lack major life skills pertaining to emotional intelligence as well as problem solving, because of course they were never put in a situation where they had to practice any emotional skills, and they were never put in a position where they had to use their problem solving skills to make a decision or to get themselves out of something or to deal with a negative situation. These children also have low self-esteem because they perceive the world in the same way that their parents do. They see it as a dangerous place that they are unequipped to maneuver within, and they don't get much reinforcement from their parents believing that they can do stuff and that they can do it in a well way. These children also tend to remain very immature because they were never put in a situation where they had to be mature adults or a mature teenager. So they always stay in that childlike state. They also experience a lot of anxiety because they tend to fear these situations that their parents always protected them from or always eliminated. Why? Because they don't know how to deal with it, because they never had to. So they have that anxiety in fearing that they may have to at some point and they don't know how to. And they have absolutely no mental strength, and we all know this life can be hard. So we need some mental fortitude to get through some of the things that life presents to us out of our control as well as in our control. So yeah, they're very fragile. They're very fragile adults that really find it very difficult to cope with any tense situations or trying times. So to my lawnmower parents or anyone suspecting that they know somebody or that they recognize certain traits that they may have, my message to you all is, it is very important for you as a parent to give a real and honest, sometimes raw introduction of what this world can be, and give your children and cultivate within them the right tools that they need to survive in this society and in this life. And a main part of those tools are major life skills. It's not only maths and English is important. These particular life skills, decision making, problem solving, self-esteem, being able to communicate within these social settings, being able to get themselves out of a situation, being able to debate if they need to debate, all of these things that are cultivated within difficult situations. It's very important for you to cultivate that, to create an adult that is able to deal with what they're going to face, because they can't always stay in your bubble. So they are going to go out there and they can either know what to do or have absolutely no clue what to do. And they're not always going to be there for them to call and get advice or call for you to come and rescue them. So that closes off Lawnmower Parents, and we're moving on to our last one, which is Cottonwool Parenting. Also referred to as Cottonwool Children, cotton wool culture and cotton wool generation. So the name itself is pretty self-explanatory. In a sense, it's like wrapping your fragile children in cotton wool for protection. It's the complete opposite of hard knocks. So on this end, they are hard knocks, and on this end, they are cotton wool children. These parents are overprotective and they're overcautious. They completely fail to prepare their children for adult life. And of course, there are different manifestations of this type of parenting at different stages. This term, out of the three that we have discussed so far, is the most recently emerged within our society, within the 21st century society. Because within recent times, they have noticed a lot of children being wrapped in cotton wool that come into their adult life. First of all, no bruises, meaning no life lessons, no negative experiences, no building moments, and they're just fragile. They break at the slightest experience of any adversity, and they just expect to always be in a bubble, and their parents really do a really good job at keeping them in a bubble, but that lasts only so long, because as I've said over and over within these parenting styles, parents are not always going to be here. So wrapping your children in cotton wool, and then at some point you not being there to wrap them in cotton wool, you leave them very exposed and very fragile, unequipped to deal with life. Like, life is a roller coaster of ups and downs, so you really gotta equip your children to be prepared for it. So some of the negative effects that come from cotton wool parenting, or some of the effects experienced by cotton wool children, are poor decision making, because they don't have to make decisions. They basically have to make the decisions that are presented to them. So they don't have to make independent decisions. They choose between option A and option B that is presented to them by their parents. They have a very low self-esteem, because if you feel the need to wrap your children in cotton wool and keep them in that very fragile, vulnerable state, they are never gonna experience moments that's gonna boost their self-esteem, where they accomplish something on their own, or they overcome something that was difficult, or they also perceive themselves as being incapable and requiring that wrapping in cotton wool. And a main feature that they speak about within cotton wool children are the fact that these types of children are those that don't go play outside. And I know that sounds pretty odd, but I'll tell you why. Playing outside creates a lot of things. One, it develops your social skills, because if your children are playing outside, that means they're playing with other ones. They're developing that interpersonal skills, their communication skills, their debate, their conflict resolution, their critical thinking. And if they don't go outside, why? Because you are fearful and you want to keep them in a fragile state indoors. They lack physical fitness, because they don't go out and run, and they aren't trying out sports. Why? Because you don't want them to fall and get a bruise and get a cut, or be bullied by a coach, or have a negative experience, or not win a race. They also have very poor resilience and health. Why? You get antibodies by going outside in those places, the playgrounds and the sand and the dirt, and you get those antibodies. And of course, your body builds up immunity. If you're keeping your child indoors all the time and they aren't going outside to play, to cut themselves, to allow their cells to regenerate and build up resilience, whether it's a physical wound or something internal, a virus, a cold, all these different things, and these being reasons why they wrap their children, you basically create an adult that has no immunity, a very low immune system, and no opportunity for their bodies, their minds, their souls to develop any form of resilience. So a lot of these children tend to have a lot of health related problems, and when they become an adult, they have even more health related problems, because within their foundational developmental stages, their immune system wasn't built. They didn't go outside, they didn't get breeze, they didn't get a cold, a common cold, a cut, a bruise, a scab, and they didn't play in water that's dirty, like drain water. I know that sounds bad, but within Trinidad, our generation lower down, not so much right now, but they know about playing in drain water. And no, none of the children do. Why? Because their parents don't want them to get sick, and they don't want to get them to get the cold, and these children don't go outside and run in the rain because they don't want to get a head cold or get sick, and the children don't go and play in the playground because they might get hurt, or they don't speak to the neighbors because, you know, it's not safe. And I mean, a lot of things play a role in Cottonwool parenting because there's a scary world out there for children. A very scary world out there for children, and I'm so sorry for them that they have to go through that now. So it really leaves a lot of parents with no choice but to Cottonwool. But find that balance between protecting your child but also creating a resilient, fit, socially capable to build relationships and face adversity and all these things that require them being out of their Cottonwool and sometimes having a negative experience, whether that's a broken arm or a cut on their knee or a flu if they catch a flu, or an argument in the playground with a stranger, or even an argument with their friend. Like, they need these experiences. So my message to parents that practice Cottonwool parenting: please do not wrap your child up in bubble wrap and expect them to just always stay in there, because it's never gonna happen. And just release control. Think about your childhood and experiences that helped you grow, and even though your childhood may have presented a lot of negative situations out of those independent moments, you know it still made you a better person. You know it taught you a lesson and it made you who you are today. So don't rob your children of those growing experiences. You can't always protect your children from negative experiences, and when you do, you hamper their development. And that brings us to the end of this video on parenting terms. As I said before, another video will be up shortly on 3 other parenting terms. Those terms will be free range parenting, tiger parenting, and I will also discuss a very interesting concept called latchkey children. So tune into that video shortly. Thank you for tuning into this video, and I hope you enjoyed. Like, share, comment below, share with someone that you think may benefit from this information, and I will see you all here soon again. Bye guys. Be really good. For protecting. No. Cool. How is it beautiful?